This is Ecclesiastes chapter 12 and 13. Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. Call Allah Yahweh, Bahashim, Hamashiach wa Malak Yahweh Shah, for giving us the spirit and power to do this lesson. All right, so what we're going to deal with today, we're going to deal with the parable of the unprofitable servant, right? Because everything we do, we cannot expect to get praise. We cannot expect to get praise for it, whether it's turning from sin or whether it's putting forth to the Most High God and Yahweh Shah's ministry. It's our duty to do these things. It's not something you can just choose to do, right? Because when you're a servant, you're a servant. When you're a servant, man, you don't get to say, nah, I ain't doing that today. Nah, you own your P's and Q's as being a servant. The scriptures talk about being an unprofitable servant in Sirach, right? And we're going to get a couple of those precepts. But this don't mean that your service don't have no value. It just means you get no bonus points, right? The only profitable servant is Yahweh Shah HaMashiach. That's why he say the servant is not greater than his Lord. We mess up. Yahweh Shah don't mess up. So he's the only profitable servant of Yahweh. Now, us falling under him, we can become more profitable, but we have to understand that we have value to our service, but there is no bonus points, right? Straight up. So at the end of the day, we learn to do what Yahweh did. So first, let's get Sirach chapter 7. Sirach chapter 7, let's start at 20. Whenever you got it, go ahead.
It's the book of Sirach, chapter 7 and verse 20. Whereas thy servant worketh truly, and treat him not evil, nor the hireling that bestoweth himself wholly for thee.
Right, wali for thee, right? With another word, holy. So we have to understand this is Sirach, Proverbs, Wisdom of Solomon. This is all wisdom from above. If we read Sirach chapter 1, where it comes from. Let me see. This is Sirach 1 and 26. If thou desire wisdom, keep the commandments, and the Lord shall give her unto thee. Now, if you read Sirach chapter 1 and Job chapter 28, it literally tells you how, in Wisdom of Solomon 16, it literally tells you how wisdom is applied, how it works, and Wisdom of Solomon chapter 7. And I can just keep going because it actually details what wisdom is, what it's for, what it does, right? What it don't like, what it do like. So we need wisdom. If you want to get more wisdom, keep the law, statutes, and commandments, right? What we reading right here in Sirach, he's giving us the wisdom from the Most High God. And it's talking about a servant in this context right here. Whereas thy servant worketh truly. If you have a servant and he's working good, you're not going to entreat him evil because you need him. I don't care if he a heathen. If he a heathen and he working good, you're not going to entreat him with evil, man. Even if he a heathen. Now, if you do that, you killing your money. And if you look at the Civil War, that's what they was fighting over. When you had the North versus the South in America, when they was fighting each other, that's what it was about. They said you're killing all the money. But the niggas in the South, like Texas and so down here in Louisiana, Mississippi, all these places, they was like, we don't care. We like having fun with them. Let's hang them. Let's burn crosses and hang them and beat them to death. But the North was like, nah, let's make them work and build up our empire. But it's still slavery nonetheless, right? So that's what that was about. But reading it one more time, it says, whereas thy servant worketh truly and treat him not evil, nor the hireling, which is still a servant, that bestoweth himself wholly for thee, right? If he giving you his all, right, the objective is to entreat him well for that, right? And that's exactly how the Most High, how much more the Most High, the Father of all spirits, he's going to entreat us well. And treat us well as in always what we want is what we need. And the most thing you need is wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, right? And this is how you will tell if a brother has wisdom or not, because you can ask him, would you rather have $50 million or would you rather have an unlimited amount of wisdom? Most likely he's going to say, I'd rather have $50 million. But if you had an unlimited amount of wisdom, you're going to get $50+ million. It's just a process. But that's what they would choose, right? But let's keep going. Read verse 21. God, I'll read it. It says, "Let thy soul love a good servant." If he a good servant, he a good servant, and that's just what it is. Now, if you a good servant to the Lord, you're a good servant to the Lord. Like I said, you have value. You just don't deserve no bonus points because that's what the Lord created you to do. That's what He called you to do. Be a good servant, right? And there's a reward for a good servant, right? Starting with Yahweh Shah Hamashiach. Yahweh Shah Hamashiach was a servant of Yahweh. Now let's go to Revelation chapter 5 and see what Yahweh Shah received for being a good servant, right? Like I said, Yahweh Shah Hamashiach is the only profitable servant, right? What Yahweh Shah is about to receive in Revelation chapter 5, he's going to share with the ones that followed him. So this is Revelation chapter 5 and 12, saying with a loud voice, "Worthy is the Lamb," John 1:29, it says Yahweh Shah is the Lamb, "that was slain to receive power and riches and wisdom and strength and honor and glory and blessing." So Yahweh Shah is going to receive all this, and he's going to break bread with his servants, right? So going back to Sirach chapter 7 and 21, you can read that if you hear me.
The book of Sirach, chapter 7 and verse 21. Let thy soul love a good servant, and defraud him not of liberty.
Straight up. And that's what the Lord do with us. He's going to give it all this to Yahweh Shah. Yahweh Shah is going to break bread with us for being good servants. But what we think we deserve, the Lord is going to give us according to our works as being servants. If you go to Revelation chapter 22, precept upon precept, line upon line, here a little, there a little. This is how we get the full understanding of the Bible. So Revelation chapter 22 and 12. This is what Yahweh Shah said out of his own mouth. He says, "And behold, I come quickly, and my reward is with me." Everything that we just read in Revelation chapter 5 and 12, he says he's going to have it all with him, meaning he's coming to get all of this stuff. Because everything that the wisdom, the glory, all that, he already has that. He's coming to fulfill the physical part of it, right? And he's coming to share the wisdom and all that with us. That's why we're going to get the new bodies and we're going to go to the wilderness. We're going to get crowns. We're going to be magnified. Yahweh Shah is going to set crowns on our head. This is for being a good and profitable servant. I want you to give me Sirach chapter 2 and the last couple verses. Remind me to get it though in a second. So it says, "And behold, I come quickly, and my reward is with me, to give every man according as his work shall be." So if you was a good servant, you're going to receive a good reward. If you was a bad servant, you're going to receive a bad reward. Right? And I'm trying to find a precept. It's a precept before 22. It actually says that. Well, we can leave it off on that. That's cool. That's fine. So the Yahweh Shah Hamashiach said out of his own mouth, his reward is with him, and he's going to give every man according to his work, as you being a servant. Was you a good servant or was you a bad servant? So if you was a good servant, he's going to reward you with Revelation chapter 5. If you was a bad servant, he's going to reward you with the lake of fire. There is no in betweens, man. It's either you make it or you don't. This is being a good servant and a bad servant. You have to choose which side you're going to be on. Right? So from there, let's go to Sirach chapter 33.
You want that Sirach 2?
It was second Ezra chapter 2, Salakia.
All right, 33. Yeah, man.
And we're going to read, I think it's verse 39, 38, 39. Let me see.
Yeah, 30 chapter what? What?
Hold on. Let's start at 40.
The book of Sirach 40 and 30.
Let's start at 38.
This is the book of Sirach, chapter 40 and verse. You said chapter 40?
No, chapter 2. There is no chapter 40.
Yes. You call Sirach?
I want second Ezra chapter 2 and 38.
Oh, Salakia. Second Ezra chapter 2 and 38.
Yeah, Yes, sir.
It's a lot. This is the book of sec. This is the book of Second Ezra, chapter 2
Oh,
and
I heard
verse
that.
3.
I heard that. I heard something. I heard something in the background.
You heard?
Nah, it's gone. But go ahead.
It say, "Arise up and stand. Behold the number of those that be sealed in the feast of the Lord."
All right.
Wait,
I don't know what that is, bro.
you can't hear me?
Now, I mean, I can hear you, but when you start talking, I can hear the stuff in the background. But go ahead. Let me see if I can hear it again.
So like it say, "Arise up and stand. Behold the number of those that be sealed in the feast of the Lord."
All right. So what is that? Yeah, you're gonna have to kill
You
that.
so like hold on.
All right. So I'll read it. So this is Second Ezra chapter 2 and 38. Arise up and stand. Behold, the number of those that be sealed in the feast of the Lord, which are departed from the shadow of the world. This is you being a good servant, a good soldier of Yahweh Shah Hamashiach. It tells you to flee from this world. Yahweh Shah says, if I was of this world, my servants would fight. We're not of this world being the servants of Yahweh Shah. Right. So this is what we did. We fleed, we departed from the shadow of the world. Right. It says, and have received glorious garments of the Lord. So this is part of our reward. Lord willing us, let me say that, of being good servants. It says, take thy number, O Zion, and shut up those of thine that are clothed in white, which have fulfilled the law of the Lord. So that's heavy right there. Fulfilled the law of the Lord. And when you go into the clothed in white garments, Revelations 19 and 11, that white garments is a symbolic word, and it goes into righteousness. And we know the righteousness goes back into the law, and the righteousness goes back to faith. Both of those. Romans chapter 4 and 13, and Deuteronomy chapter 6 and 25. Right. So let me keep going. It says, verse 41, the number of thy children whom thou longest for is fulfilled. Beseech the power of the Lord that thy people, which have been called from the beginning, may be hallowed. Right? Because it's all according to election. It's all according to you being washed by the word through regeneration. Right? Verse 42, I Ezra, now this is the point. I Ezra saw upon the Mount Zion a great people, whom I could not number, and they all praised the Lord with songs. So this sounds just like Revelation chapter 6 that John, the Revelator, was talking about. Straight up. So let's keep going. It says, uh, and in the midst of them was a young man of high stature. And stature means your length, how tall you was. It says taller than all the rest. So this is talking about Yahweh Shah HaMashiach, how he is taller than everyone else. So let's just guess. The tallest man we see is probably like 7 foot, 7'5" at the most. Yao Ming is like 7'6". Yahweh Shah is going to be taller than that. He's going to be like 12 foot. He's going to be taller than everybody. Right? It says, and upon every one of their heads he set crowns and was more exalted, which I marveled at greatly. So Yahweh Shah HaMashiach, part of a good servant's reward at the end is him receiving a crown from Yahweh Shah's hands himself upon his head. This is the reward for a good and profitable servant. But none of us can. That's why we walk in humility. That's why we always say, Lord willing, we make it. Because we know as of now, we are unprofitable servants, right? Until Yahweh Shah tell us who is and who ain't. But you have to walk in that humility, just to make your call in an election sure. You don't want to get all puffed up and proud, right? Because it says, 1 Corinthians 13, that charity is not puffed up, I believe it says, right? Being charitable, right? It says, if you know wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, revelations, speaking in tongues, all that, and you have not charity, you have nothing. So this is what Yahweh Shah is going to base off who he put this crown on their head. So don't just read Paul just by trying to just see if the Gentiles can make it. Read Paul to actually see what Yahweh Shah directly came to him to tell him and to show him, which is 1 Corinthians 13, you being charitable. Straight up. You still there out?
I had to get resituated.
Con. Uh, we can be done on that. When you read all the way down to 48, it literally goes into. Matter of fact, we can keep reading it. Let's keep reading on this. So it says, verse 44. So I asked the angel and said, Sir, what are these? Right? Go to Sirach 33 and 24. It says, He answered and said unto me, These be they that have put off the mortal clothing. If you go to 2nd Ezra chapter 14 and 13, it talks about putting away the evil of your doing, putting off the mortal clothing, the mortal thoughts, right? Setting your house in order. That's putting off the mortal clothing and putting on immortal, right? You're getting yourself and your family ready for something bigger. It says, and have confessed the name of God. Now are they crowned and receive palms. And palms goes back to peace. You're going to receive peace because we have no peace here. Right? It says, Then said I unto the angel, What young person is it that crowneth them and giveth them palms in their hands? So he answered and said unto me, It is the Son of God, whom they have confessed in the world. Then began I greatly to commend them that stood so stiffly for the name of the Lord. So it's showing you the process on how these people are going to make it, how these people, the details and characteristics of these good servants, these profitable servants, Salakia, right? Even though we look at ourselves as unprofitable servants, and we should be to stay in humility, the Lord might look at you as something greater, straight up. But you have to let the Lord make that decision, not yourself, right? So let's keep going. It says, verse 48, Then the angel said unto me, Go thy way and tell my people what manner of things and how great wonders of the Lord thy God thou hast seen. Straight up. And we're doing the same thing through the scriptures. We're showing you and telling you the wonderful things that the Lord has prepared for a profitable servant. Right. So let's you got that? All right, 33.
Come. It's the book of Sirach, chapter 33, and verse 24. Father, a wine, and burdens are for the ass, and bread, correction, and work for a servant.
Right. So this is the duty of a servant, right? And what is our bread? Our bread is to do the will of our Father, right? That's our bread in a spiritual sense, right? But it says fodder, a wand, right? And I believe a wand and a fodder is something like you slap the horse with to make it go faster. It says and burdens, right? That's why it tells you, and me and the brother was just going over it about in Philippians 1 and 29 and in First Peter 2 and 21, how it talks about we have to suffer like Yahushua suffered. He was the only profitable servant, but we have to follow his footsteps the best way we know how, right? So burdens are for servants. That's why you're going through what you're going through because it's for a servant. Burdens. It says are for the ass and bread, correction, and work for a servant. So bread, as in us either collecting the bread or using the bread, correction, right? We all need to be corrected. It tells you that in Wisdom of Solomon 12. Let me get it. We know what the bread is, but let's get this in Wisdom of Solomon 12. So Wisdom of Solomon 12, and I'm gonna start at 1. It says, For thine incorruptible spirit is in all things. Therefore chastenest thou them by little and little that offend, and warnest them by putting them in remembrance, wherein they have offended, that leaving their wickedness they may believe on thee, O Lord. So when we go back to Sirach 33 and 24, fodder, a wine, and burdens are for the ass, and bread, correction, keeping us in remembrance, so we will not go back to sin, what the Lord will do to us. Correction. It says, and work. We all need to be put to work. Why do we all need to be put to work? Let's go to I go to Ezekiel 16 and 49. It says, I'm gonna read it again. It says, fodder, a wine, and burdens are for the ass, and bread, correction, and work for a servant. Right? So us being a servant, we need to be put to work. And Yahweh Shah showed us what we need to be doing. We need to be fulfilling our lots in his ministry.
You
Straight
wanted
up.
Ezekiel 6.
1649. We cannot be lazy or idle, and and that's what the whole entire planet really was been programmed to be, is idle and lazy, man. That stuff bringeth forth sin. When you just bored, that's when you do the dumbest shit on earth. When you bored, that's when niggas get the grouping up and then they want to go do knockout challenges on elderly people because they bored, man. But go ahead.
It's the book of Ezekiel, chapter 16 and verse 49. Behold, this was the iniquity of thy sister Sodom. Pride, fullness of bread, and abundance of idleness was in her and in her daughters. Neither did she strengthen the hand of the poor and needy.
Right. So the key point in this, we know this is talking about America because um, the word Sodom, it says, "Behold, this was the iniquity which is sin of thy sister Sodom." When you go to Revelations 11 and 8, it says that America, Babylon the Great, is spiritually called Sodom and Egypt. So this place is Sodom also. And this is exactly what goes on in America. Pride. It says fullness of bread. They eating all these different foods and they can go whenever they want to. Right? That weight trainer, his name was Kali. He ate a big ass dish and went to the like he would just go to like McDonald's, Burger King, Sonic, and we put them all in a row. And he's a bodybuilder. He would put all these different food brands in a row, meals, and he would eat them all and see which one was better. And then he had to go to the doctor the next day, and it said that his arteries were 100% clogged. But that's what comes with idleness. Is with the fullness of bread, it becomes idle. It's like, who the hell, like, bro, what are you talking about? Like, you went and got Sonic, Burger King, Taco Bell, Taco Bueno, McDonald's. You went and got all of these just to see which one tastes better all at the same time. That is abundance of idleness, right? Because you don't got nothing to do. You feel like your whole objective is your purpose is complete because you this buff ass bodybuilder. So your purpose is complete. Now you can just bullshit around with life. Now look at him. His arteries are 100% clogged up. We're not talking about, because usually it's like 90%, 80%. His arteries was 100% clogged. That's some scary stuff right there. All right, so let's go back to go ahead.
Now, what's the precept you wanted?
I want to go back to that Sirach. So in the context of what I was trying to get out of Ezekiel 16 and 49 is the abundance of idleness, the abundance of laziness. And remember, Yahweh Shah gonna give you what you've done on this earth. Straight up. If you want to let the Christian, the Roman Catholicism church deceive you and think that you're doing mighty works just because you give a 20 here and there to a homeless man, but that's it, then hey, go for it. But that's why we do these lessons, man. This is how you be a profitable servant, keeping the law, statutes, and commandments, and fulfilling your lot in the body of Yahweh Shah HaMashiach, which is the New Testament, and the suffering, and the faith, and the mercy, and the judgment. Go ahead.
This is Sirach 33 and verse 25. If thou set thy servant to labor, thou shalt find rest. But
So
if thou
that's
let him,
important. Salakia. That's important. If thou set thy servant to labor, thou shalt find rest. Right? That's very key. Go ahead. I'll finish that off.
but if thou let him go idle, he shall seek liberty.
See? And that's exactly what we just read, what the problem was in Ezekiel 16 and 49, the abundance of idleness. But if you set him to labor, he ain't got time to be thinking of ideas on how to escape, thinking of ideas on how to overthrow you, because he's too busy working and he better get that done. But the thing is, he not looking, he's so worried about getting it done. There's no time for praise, right? Get it done, make sure it's done, and you will be entreated well afterwards. That's how we got to look at it. We suffering here. We're doing the work of the Lord, but then it seems like we're not getting a reward. We're still at the bottom. We're still getting shit and pissed on by the people. They don't want to hear the word, right? but our reward is coming, man. Straight
Uh,
up, Lord willing.
can I make a
And I'm
point?
gonna put myself in there, huh?
I say, can I make a point right quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
It say in verse 25, if thou set thy servant to labor, thou shalt find rest. But if thou let him go idle, he shall seek liberty. So if you not, on fire, or your mind be kind of thinking about other things too much, your eyes is kind of turning away, you're not really focused, you kind of seeking liberty, you may be being idle. So that's something to consider. You want to get in this work and do the work. Idleness teaches much evil. So like,
Hey, and that's exactly what we about to read. Idleness teaches much evil. So when we look, so now that we know that, matter of fact, let's finish this out, and then we'll go to that. Finish that out.
uh,
We're going to 27.
right, verse 26, it say, a yoke and a collar do bow the neck. So are tortures and torments for an evil servant.
So you deserve everything you get, right? It says tortures and torments for an evil servant. Yahushua, remember Revelation 22, he says, I'm going to give everybody according to their ways, right? So that leads me to go to this. Let's go to Luke. Stay right there. I'm going to go to it. Luke 12 and 47. Let's see what he said. So this is Luke 12 and 47. It says, and that servant, still dealing with a servant, which knew his Lord's will and prepared not himself, neither did according to his will, shall be beaten with many stripes. It says tortures and torments for an evil servant. So right here, beaten with many stripes, that is tortures and torments right there. And this is coming out the Lord's mouth himself. And Sirach is saying the same thing. They're both confirming each other with this. This is what you're going to receive for being a unprofitable servant, right? Being lazy, being idle, right? Or you can put yourself to work. And I'm about to get the precepts on how we put ourselves to work, right? But I'm gonna read the next verse too. But he that knew not and did commit things worthy of stripes shall be beaten with few stripes. For unto whom so much is given, of him shall be much required. And to whom men have committed much, of him will they ask the more. So when we look at this scripture, you got people in the comment section telling us we going off, we wrong about this, that, and they got these whole breakdowns in the comment section. Well, you're in trouble too because you have no platform, and it says much is given. You have all this wisdom, so you should be out teaching that somewhere because to whom much is given, much is required. You're required to go out and teach that. It's madness what you teaching, but if you really believe that, go out there and teach it then. So you're going to be beaten with many stripes, which is tortures and torments for an evil servant. Now let's read Sirach 33 and 27.
Book of Sirach, chapter 33 and verse 27. Send him to labor, that he be not idle, for idleness teacheth much evil.
It says, idleness teacheth much evil. So Yahushua, his ministry, when we look at how he came to Paul, and Paul has the biggest ministry, right? Going back and forth to Greece, Jerusalem, going all over, man, to wake up the uncircumcised Jews, right? He was sent to labor by Yahushua Mashiach. Yahushua showed us, form you a congregation, which is the 12 disciples, form your congregation like Yahushua and go out and labor, right? We know what to do. We know how to labor. Look at the brothers doing it already. They have congregation. They're purifying themselves. They going out and teaching. They doing lessons. They having classes, right? Straight up, man. We eating together. We're all eating. This is the body of Yahushua. This is Romans chapter 6, right? The whole chapter, man. All right, so now from there, let's go to John chapter 4 right quick. John 4 and 34.
This is the book of John, chapter 4 and verse 34. Yahushua saith unto them, my meat is to do the will of him that sent me, and
All
to
right.
finish his work.
Hey, and bread can be considered meat, right? Bread can be considered meat, right? because Yahushua break the bread and said, "This is my body," so it can be considered meat, right? So when we go back to Sirach chapter 33, and I'm just bringing this out to help understand Sirach 33 and 24. Fodder a wand. It says, "Fodder a wand and burdens are for the ass, and bread, correction and work for a servant." So this bread in John chapter 34, Yahushua is going to give us more details on what this is talking about. But I'm using Sirach 33 also, right? So let's read John 4 and 34.
This is the book of John, chapter 4 and verse 34. It say, my meat, so like Yahushua saith unto them, my meat is to do the will of him that sent me and to finish his work.
That's his meat. So that should be our meat. And we should not expect a prize for going out and teaching for 2 years straight, for 3 years straight, for 4 years. So I've been out here 7 years and I feel like I ain't did nothing. But that's me staying humble though. You want to stay humble, man. Because when you not humble, then you thinking you deserve something. Then you looking at it like, man, I've been doing this shit for 10 years and I'm still at the bottom. I'm still struggling. Because you think you're a profitable servant. But Yahushua gonna give us, and he gonna lace us up. Let's keep going.
It say, verse 35, say not ye, there are yet 4 months, and then cometh harvest.
All right.
Behold,
So
I
this is
say,
a servant. This is what a servant does. He goes out to the field and he gathers the harvest. But it says, say not ye that there are 4 months, and then cometh harvest. Right? Go ahead.
behold, I say unto you, lift up your eyes and look on the fields, for they are white already to harvest.
So works needs to be done. You're a servant, work needs to be done out there in that field. They're ready to be harvested. Now, this is a parable, but it's talking about the people is ready to be woken up. You're the servant, right? You need to go out there and do what the servant do. Harvest the field, which is harvest the people, bring them in. That's what you do with the harvest. You bring in the crops, the fruits, the vegetation, right? That's why he's saying, don't look at the world and be like, it ain't time to wake nobody up, or people just not gonna listen, or any of that. The Lord says, no, get out there. They're ready to be woken up. I put my spirit in the earth. They're ready. Just go out there and do the work of a servant, right? But you got people that don't want to go do the work. Therefore, they are unprofitable servants, right? Go ahead.
Verse 36, and he that reapeth receiveth wages, and gathereth fruit unto life eternal, that both he that soweth and he that reapeth may rejoice together.
Ooh-wee. He that soweth and he that reapeth might rejoice together, right? Brothers working as a team to bring brothers into the truth. They're going to receive and rejoice in your wages together, right? So there is a reward for the servants, right? But we think just because every time we stop doing something or every time we do something for the Lord, we think we deserve a reward. And that's what he's talking about in this parable. You don't deserve a reward for everything you do, but I am going to truly bless you in the end. But some people don't have patience for that. That's why they're trying to get it here. All right. And what did the Lord says? Woe unto them that are rich, for you have received your consolation. All right. Why? Because you didn't want to wait. You unprofitable wicked servant, you received your consolation. All right. But go ahead.
The Lord said, in your patience possess ye your souls. I mean, so like it, but verse 37, it say, and herein is that saying true, one soweth and another reapeth.
Go ahead.
Verse 30, I sent you to reap that whereon ye bestowed no labor. Other
Ooh,
men,
you hear
and
that?
ye are
He says,
their
I
labor.
sent you to reap that whereupon ye bestowed no labor. So he's saying, basically, to sum it all up, I already sent Elijah and more prophets before you to already put forth the work. Only thing we got to do is to continue the work. That's all we have to do. I've been in the truth 7 years and I'm still a babe. Only thing I got to do is go research the information and bring it out and give my understanding to it. All this stuff is already searched out. That's why it's called research. Do your research because the labor has already been, it's already went on. The elders and apostles before us already was sent out by the Lord. That's why he said, I sent you to reap that whereupon ye bestowed no labor. We didn't start this. We're just entering and continuing the labor as servants. It says, other men have labored and you have entered into their labors to finish it off. Straight up. Now let's go to John chapter 21 right quick. John 21, and let's start at 12.
It's the book of John, chapter 21, and verse 12. Yahushua saith unto them, Come and dine. And none of the disciples durst ask him, Who art thou? Knowing that it was the Lord.
Right. Because this is when he was all messed up. This is him coming in, after he died. Right. But it says, he said unto them, Come eat with me. Right. Let's keep going. Verse
Yahushua
13.
then and taketh bread and giveth them, and fish likewise.
All right. Because we just went over the bread part of it. And we went over the fish likewise. This is all symbolic, just like how it's physical. He physically gave them bread and fish. It's symbolic too, right? Fishermen, right? Go ahead.
Uh, verse 14. This is now the third time that Yahushua showed himself to the disciples
Mm-hmm.
after that he was risen from the dead.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Verse 15. So when they had dined, Yahushua saith to Simon Peter, Simon, son of Jonas, lovest thou me more than these? He saith unto him, Yea, Lord, thou knowest that I love thee. He saith unto him, Feed my lambs.
So we know how to feed the lambs. You feed the lambs by going and do the research and bringing forth the food to them, the spiritual food, where they can rub their stomach and says, I'm full. I got enough for today. That's you cutting off that video. But you're that servant that got to go put forth that work, right? And this is what Yahweh Shah is commanding of all of us. He says, if you love me, go and feed my lambs. So the first thing he said was lambs. Let's keep reading.
God. It's a
Go ahead, 16.
Salakia. It's 15. He saith to him again the second time, Simon, son of Jonas, lovest thou me? He saith unto him, Yea, Lord, thou knowest that I love thee. He saith unto him, Feed my sheep.
So he said it again. He said, are you sure you love me? He said, yeah, Lord, you know I love you. He said, feed my sheep. We all know how to feed the sheep. We know how to feed the lambs. We are the lost sheep of the house of Israel. How do you feed the lost sheep? By bringing them back to their God and feeding them with the bread that the Most High gave us. Right? Go ahead.
It say, verse 17, he saith unto him the third time, Simon, son of Jonas, lovest thou me? Peter was grieved because he said unto him the third time, Lovest thou me?
So
And
Peter
he
like,
said unto
go ahead.
him, Lord, thou knowest all things. Thou knowest that I love thee. Yahushua saith unto him, Feed my sheep.
So when we look at this, go to 2 Timothy 4 and 2. So when we look at this, it sounds like Yahweh was playing with him, right? He just joking around trying to make him mad. But that's not the case. He was trying to establish and embed in his mind what he wanted him to do. And that was what? Feed the sheep, feed the lamb, feed the sheep. He made that clear. That's why he did it 3 times. And we know three is a spiritual number, right? Seven is a spiritual number. Uh, All no, even six is a spiritual number. It's just on the left hand side. They're all spiritual numbers. They're not just saying he didn't say it 3 times for no reason, right? We ain't got to get into all of that, but he said it three to make sure he understood. Make sure he understood. So you being a servant of Yahweh Shah, that profitable servant, you have to understand too. He wants you to feed the sheep, man. Straight up, man, and stay and have it in your mind and humility that you are an unprofitable servant. We are all as filthy rags, right? He was talking to them in that time in Isaiah, but when we use that, the scriptures are written aforetime was written for our learning. This keeps us humble, man. This keeps us humble, right? So go ahead, go to that 2 Timothy 4:2.
It's the book of Second Timothy, chapter 4 and verse 2. Preach the word, be instant in season, out of season,
Salakia,
reprove,
before you get
read.
that, hold on, before you get that, let me get this. That was my fault. Let me get this First Corinthians right quick, just to make sure we on the right page, right? So this is First Corinthians 10, not 10, 11 and 1. Be ye followers of me, even as I also am of Hamashiach. So Paul's ministry, it was dedicated to the ministry, the body of Yahweh Shah Hamashiach. And Paul had Mark with him, he had Luke with him, he had Apollos with him, he had a couple of people with him. I forgot the brother's name in Philippians. He had men that turned back and went back into the world with him, but he still was that profitable servant. How do we know? Because he says, I have fought the good fight of faith. He did not give up. But he tells you about the thorns in his flesh to keep himself humble. So it all makes sense, man. Go ahead, read that.
Book of Second Timothy, chapter 4 and verse 2. It say, preach the word, be instant in season, out of season, reprove, rebuke, exhort with all long suffering and doctrine.
Straight up. And even knowing that people are not going to listen to the reproofs, they're not going to listen to the rebukes, right? We still have to do this. He says, preach the word, be instant in season, out of season. Throughout the 4 seasons, we need to be preaching this gospel. And where did Paul learn this from? He learned this from Yahweh Shah HaMashiach. Straight up. Like I said, Yahweh Shah is the only profitable servant. All the prophets and apostles under him are unprofitable servants, all of us. All right. So from there, let's get let me see.
I got a precept.
Go ahead.
All right. Now, you feel what I'm saying? He was telling them, feed my sheep. He told them 3 times. Now let's go to the law. This is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 8, verse 3. It say, and he humbled thee and suffered thee to hunger and fed thee with manna, which thou knewest not, neither did thy fathers know, that he might make thee know that man doth not live by bread only, but by every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of the Lord doth man live. So it say here in the law that man lives on not bread alone, but every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of God doth man live. So when he telling him to feed my sheep, of course he not talking about going to go feed some actual animals, man. He talking
Yeah,
about
that's why he said, come dine with me. They was eating. They ate
exactly
bread.
like the brother said, these things is spiritual. The law is spiritual. Uh yeah,
But we
man.
are
This is
carnal. But we are carnal, sold under sin. Therefore, we are unprofitable servants. That was beautiful that you just said that. That goes right along with it. It says the law is spiritual, but we are carnal, sold under sin. So we are indeed unprofitable servants. We're doing what's commanded us. We're doing what we're supposed to do. So let's go to
uh
Matthew. Uh, let's go to Matthew 9 and 35. I'll read it. You can go to First Corinthians 9. I think
uh
I'll start at 16. But this is Matthew 9 and 35. And Yahushua went about all the cities and villages. It says all the cities and villages. Now we're on a more strict schedule where we can't just go and travel and come back in our house and everything be, still intact. It's either the landlord gonna come evict you, somebody gonna break in there, whatever the case. So we stay in our towns, right, and preach the gospel in our throughout our towns. Plus, there's far more people now than ever, right, out here on the highways and byways. There's like 100 camps, and within those camps, you have different sections, right? You got Sakari, San Diego, Sakari, Brooklyn. You got Sakari, New Jersey. You got Sakari everywhere. But that's just Sakari, right? So we're everywhere, man. But it says, and Yahushua went about all the cities and villages, teaching in the synagogues and preaching the gospel of the kingdom. Where is the gospel found at?
Isaiah 61.
Khan, you have to know that. It's in Isaiah 61. It says, in healing every sickness and every disease among the people. But when he saw the multitude, he was moved with compassion on them because they fainted and were scattered abroad as sheep having no shepherd. Right? Them being scattered abroad, we the ones that got to go out there and bring them back to the Father, back to Abba. Right? It says, then said he unto his disciples, the harvest truly is plenteous, but the laborers are few. Right? Sirach 33 again. Right? We're supposed to be laboring so that we be not idle. Right? If thou set thy servant to labor, thou shalt find rest. But if thou let him go idle, he shall seek liberty. Right? Then it says, send him to labor that he be not idle, for idleness teacheth much evil. Salakia. So I'm gonna read Matthew 9 and 37 again. Then said he unto his disciples, the harvest truly is plenteous, but the laborers are few. Pray ye therefore the Lord of the harvest, that he, and the Lord of the harvest is the Lord of the world, right? It says that he will send forth laborers into his harvest. And that's so we can get the hell up out of here. So all the harvest can be gathered, right, into the storehouses, which is symbolic for us being gathered into for the kingdom, right? But we are the laborers, we are the servants, right? And we're supposed to pray for more servants. Why? To make our job easier and so we can get out of here faster. Because even in the kingdom, we're going to be priests. We're going to be teaching. We're just not going to be teaching each other. We're still going to be priests. You're still going to be teaching. Straight up, man. And where is that? I believe that's in the gospel, Isaiah 61. I think it's Isaiah 61 or it might be Isaiah chapter 60. Let me get it. Isaiah 61 and 6. It says, but ye shall be named the priest of the Lord. Men shall call you the ministers of our God. And when you go to Malachi 2 and 6, precept upon precept, Malachi 2 and 6, it says, the law of truth was in, 7. For the priest's lips should keep knowledge, and they shall seek the law at his mouth, for he is the messenger of the Lord of hosts. So when we put this with Isaiah 61, but ye shall be named the priests of the Lord, this is talking about in the kingdom. So we're still going to be teaching straight up, just not each other, right? So Khan, you said you had a precept on.
We can get off in that First Corinthians 9.
Go ahead.
I'm gonna start at verse 7. 16.
Yeah.
It say, for though I preach the gospel, I have nothing to glory of, for necessity is laid upon me. Yea, woe is unto me, if I preach not the gospel.
So that goes for every single last one of us, right? This is you trying to fulfill being a profitable servant. So he says, for though I preach the gospel, I have nothing to glory of. Why? Because this is your job. This is what you're supposed to be doing, right? And Paul is saying this himself. So this is how we need to be. He says, for though I preach the gospel, I have nothing to glory of, for necessity is laid upon me. And that means necessary as in this is what you need to be doing. Right? Your daily necessities, You need those daily necessities. So this is something you need to be doing. Necessities, that's the word, Salakia. It says, for necessity is laid upon me. And that necessity is to preach the gospel, man. That's what he's talking about. He says, yeah, woe is me. Destruction is unto me if I preach not the gospel. Why? Because this is your job. You are a servant. It says, for if I do this thing willingly, I have a reward. And that's what I was going to in Sirach 33. You have a reward. In Revelations 22, yeah, I wish I said you have a reward, but you have to wait to the end to receive your reward. Right? Hey, so do you got a precept? Because I'm gonna close out with this.
Uh,
All right, so let's keep going. Verse 17. For if I do this thing willingly, I have a reward. But if against my will, a dispensation of the gospel is committed unto me, what is my reward then? Right? If he stopped preaching the gospel, what is his reward? Right? Remember, it tells you in Ezekiel 3, when you turn and go back to your vomit, it says that all your righteousness that you have done will not be remembered. So you're not going to get shit. Imagine somebody being in a truth 15 years and they go back into the world. All that 15 years worth of riches, honor, glory, all of that, it's going to be not remembered. The Lord going to be like, you ain't did nothing for me. He's not even going to remember what you did good for him. That's what the Bible's saying. Right? Let me get it, matter of fact. Let me get it. Ezekiel chapter 3. Ezekiel chapter 3 and 20. He says, again, when a righteous man doth turn from his righteousness, that means going back to wickedness, backsliding, going back into the world, and commit iniquity, and I lay a stumbling block before him. And a stumbling block is he didn't smoke before, but now he went back into the world. Now he's smoking. It's like, damn, that's a stumbling block for that brother that the Lord said right there. So the Lord, like, yeah, get yourself out of this. Right? Like it tells you in Jeremiah 18 and 8, he says, I frame evil against you. Right? That's a stumbling block. But he says, I lay a stumbling block before him, he shall die, because thou hast not given him warning. He shall die in his sin, and his righteousness which he have done shall not be remembered. But his blood will I require at thine hand. So that's a scary thing, man. That's a scary thing, man. All the laboring that some of these elders did and they fell out the truth, none of that stuff is going to be mentioned or remembered. Right? That's where you're going to get in the scriptures where Yahweh says, Lord did not prophesy in your name. And he's going to say, get away from me, ye that work iniquity. Why? Because you went back into the world. All right. Sirach 2, it says, what will you do if the Lord will visit you? Right. So 1 Corinthians 9 and 17. For if I do this thing willingly, I have a reward. But if against my will, a dispensation of the gospel is committed unto me, what is my reward then? Verily that, when I preach the gospel, I may make the gospel of Hamashiach without charge. What you think you supposed to get? Because you know how Jake is, what they think that they deserve. So imagine trying to charge Christ on what you did. You like, man, hey, I gave you 10 years of my life. What's up? Like, what you got for me? Hell nah, man. You got that crown for me that we read in 2nd Ezra chapter 2? You got that crown for me? I need that. I gave you 10 years of my life. I did away with all that stuff, right? I put all this work in your ministry. I spent all this money, right? I lost all these people because, I did what you told me to do. What you got for me? This is what he's talking about. He says, I may make the gospel of Hamashiach without charge, that I abuse not my power in the gospel, right? Paul speaking about abusing the gospel by his power. Now let's I want to get an example of that. I know it's in 2 Corinthians 12. All right, go to 2 Corinthians 12 and 7.
just the book of 2 Corinthians chapter 12 and verse 7.
All right, so let's start at 6.
Verse 6. For though I would desire to glory, I shall not be a fool, For
So
I
we
will say,
see, so we see this is saying the same thing, right? Him glorying. He says uh, that I abuse not my power, which is glory, in the gospel, because everybody, Paul is a famous character in the New Testament, very famous. He got the most books, very famous. He got the most books, man. But go ahead.
for though I would desire to glory, I shall not be a fool. For I will say the truth, but now I forbear, lest any man should think of me above that which he seeth me to be, or that he heareth of me.
Go ahead.
Verse 7. And lest I should be exalted above measure through the abundance of revelations, there was given to me a thorn in the flesh, the messenger of Satan to buffet me, lest I should be exalted above measure.
So this is the Lord making sure he does not abuse his power in the gospel. The Lord gave him problems in the flesh. When you go into thorn in the flesh, it's talking about trials and tribulations in the flesh that he was dealing with, right? Now, it don't say specifically what he was dealing with because I look, but he was dealing with something. He's telling you. So he says, unless he should be exalted above measure, that's him abusing his power in the gospel, right? Because of the abundance of revelations that was revealed unto him, right? There was given to him a thorn in the flesh, the messenger of Satan to buffet him. When you go into the word buffet, it literally means to punch on, to slap on, right? So he's telling you, Satan came and slapped on me. And when you read the book of Job, it literally tells you how Satan comes at you. Satan comes at you by touching your flesh, giving you boils, right? Giving you any kind of disease. You got back problems, you got feet problems, you got knee problems, right? You got arthritis, whatever it is. That's Satan, right? That's him buffeting you, right? But some people don't learn from Satan coming to buffet them from the Most High. They don't learn, right? And then you also have your substance being taken away. That's another way Satan can buffet you. But it means to Satan buffet means to lay hands upon. He said, "Lest I should be exalted above measure," right? And that goes for all of us, man. We all being humble because we all dealing with a thorn in the flesh, man. Every single last one of us do stuff that we live something that keeps us humble. All right, but let's keep going.
It say, verse 8, for this thing I besought the Lord thrice, that it might depart from me.
Right. So he prayed to the Lord 3 times that it might depart from him. Go ahead.
Verse 9, and he said unto me, my grace is sufficient for thee,
Right.
for my
Sufficient is
strength is,
Salakia. Sufficient is enough. So my grace is enough for you. Go ahead.
for my strength is made perfect in weakness. Most
Go ahead.
gladly, therefore, will I rather glory in my infirmities, that the power of Hamashiach may rest upon me.
So that's why we have the thorns of flesh. So Yahweh Shah can be known as that profitable servant. Because if he wasn't going through those thorns in the flesh, then he would be a profitable servant like Yahweh Shah. But Yahweh Shah is the only profitable servant. He is the chief shepherd. He is the way, the truth, and the life, man. All right. But this is the parable Yahweh Shah of you being an unprofitable or a profitable servant. Hey, Lord willing, you was edified, man. You got a precept?
Uh,
Hey, Lord willing, you was edified, man. We want to give Kahala Yahweh, Bahashem, Mashiach Yahweh Shah for giving us the spirit and power to do this lesson. Hey, choose this, choose ye this day whom you're gonna serve. You're gonna be an unprofitable servant in humility or an unprofitable servant with pride. All right,
mm,
shalom.
Shalom.